Welcome back to WebCertain TV. I'm Gemma Houghton, and today I'm joined by Marcin Chirowski, who's Head of SEO at EF Englishlive, and we're going to be talking about blogs. So hi Marcin, thank you for being here.
Hi, nice for having me in again, so thank you.
Pleasure. So blogs, are they still an important channel for businesses to be using online?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, of course you have like a surge of social media, you know, the new visual and video content is getting out there a lot at a quick pace. You know, you can see this from like giants that are actually investing heavily in like, you know, the paid version of the channels, and also like very visual. It's got very visual. So you got like Snapchat, you've got Instagram, Facebook going very visual. But then when you look at the blogs, and then you can absolutely feel it with the content that fits your audience. So it doesn't have to be, you know, just still old boring like just written content. It could be filled up with different types of content. It could be audio, it could be videos, it could be images, it could be written text. So why it's important to have it is basically because it's on your website, and it gives you the benefits of having that channel on your website and then bringing the audience to your own website in opposed to someone else. So that's kind of why it's still important to have it, the blog on your site. Yeah.
And there are obviously a lot of blogs, you know, around from over the past years. There's a lot of them being built up, so there's a lot of kind of almost competition for readers. So what makes a good blog, and how can you kind of encourage people to choose yours and return and keep reading your content?
Yeah, good question, good question. We are all, as marketers, fighting for engagement, for user engagement. There's so much being created out there. And then how you stand out, that's a good question. The way to stand out is to just focus on your target audience and then create that content that resonates with them, and that makes them tick, that makes them actually coming back. You know, it's hard, of course, but once you've done that, then you're up to success. You know, because if you focus solely on your audience, then probably go niche. You know, and then look at the subjects that resonates with them, use the tools available. And then create content for them. You know, that's probably what's the best way to go. And
if for a company that hasn't necessarily got a blog but is thinking, okay, maybe we should have one, and they're about to start one, and one that would be maybe targeting, you know, an international audience, more than one language, what are the kind of fundamentals you should think about from the start?
Okay. So if someone don't have the blog yet, which is hard to believe that companies don't have the blog.
Well, maybe it's a new company.
Maybe it's a new company. Yes, that's a fair point. And not all the companies have it. So yeah, so that's a good question. So the first thing to start is to start with the plan actually, and then go from there. Because just keep it actionable. Start with something that will be useful. And also go with the audience, and then follow up with the content for that audience. So the first part will be actually to accumulate the content before you start publishing. So when you're done with your calendar, and when you're done with your the planning stage, then start accumulating content, because you're in it for the long haul. So essentially you want to have enough content before you start, because you basically might hit the roadblock after a month or after two. But if you have accumulated content before, then you won't hit that roadblock. So you're giving yourself an advantage by preparing before, because there is that need of actually needing to publishing at the consistent basis.
Yeah.
So if you do prepare the content before, you get this already sorted. You know?
That is a very good tip, because that's often the problem you see with blogs, that you'll go to one and it might have some great content on, but it's only once every few months that it's published. And if that's the case, it will, you're not likely to regularly go, because you don't think you're going to get something new.
You see this all the time.
Yeah, and it is a big challenge, because to create good quality, relevant content regularly requires quite a lot of resources, I guess, and that's something that businesses do struggle with. And this is certainly a case when if you're running a blog in multiple languages and your website is equally, you're going to want to match the website languages with the blog. How can you make that process less arduous, so make it more scalable without losing relevancy?
Okay, that's a good question. So scaling internationally, it could be challenging. If you haven't never done it, definitely seek the professional advice how to structure that. and then ask the experts how to structure the actual, the framework before you start. So setting up the right domain, setting up the content in the right places. That's kind of the fundamentals to start with. And once you have that, relying on local copywriters, relying on local people to write the content, to translate, to localize the content for you is probably the best sort of next step, But yeah, having the structure first and then having a local copywriters, that's probably the best way to go about the international aspects of that.
And can you replicate, obviously, properly translated and localized, but can you replicate the same content, or should you actually create fresh new content entirely for each market? Okay,
that's a good question. And then also, you could do both. You can try and test, whatever you see working for you. You could definitely both, because what I've seen, you can localize content quite easily, and Google will rank that content in the individual languages. You don't want to do like automated translation with any like crazy tools out there. You basically want to do human translation, and actually it's localization, not necessarily. So it's almost like transcreating instead of straight translation. When you transcreate, you ask the local person, hey, read this article and recreate this in your local local language. So what they do, they take the original in English, and then the local person recreate this into Chinese, French, and then so on. So by doing that, you have the original content in English and then recreated content in other languages.
So that could be, for example, changing examples used in the blog to something that's more relevant to that market, or using descriptions of places that are in that country.
And also adding local keywords as well. So if that person knows your list of keywords, that they will actually focus on different keywords. If you localize them correctly, that's super important actually.
And that is also important because, like you say at the beginning, the reason for having a blog is really to help drive traffic to your website. So it's clearly SEO is a huge part of that. And if you've got people who are good content writers but don't really know SEO, there could be a clash there, and it could not work so effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it. Yeah, spot on. Yeah, absolutely.
So any final tips or insights you'd like to share on, how to make your blog really successful?
All right, final tips. It's definitely something that businesses should be doing, in my opinion. And my sort of final tips will be go with your audience. That's sort of, I would probably rephrase this again, but focusing on your target audience will give you an edge, and it will give you the kind of like something that's relatable and something that people can actually share. And then introducing like calendars, procedures, things like that will actually makes your life easier for longer. That probably is a good advice as well. So having that, process instead of just a single article event, it's something that's important when you're creating a blog. So it is definitely for the long haul, like SEO is. So having the process in place and systems in place will help you to actually maintain that blog going forward. And we also give you that kind of consistent basis, so you can actually give that content to your audience on a consistent basis actually.
Makes a lot of sense. Great. Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It was enjoyable. Thank you.
Thanks.